Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room. I'm Robin Adair. With me, as always, my co-host with the most, the Croatian sensation, John Jurisic. And Johnny, there's lots to talk about, lots to rumble about, and our focus is going to be on the economy. Great guest coming up, but I just want to say a few things about the economy in terms of how it pertains to pipelines and proposed pipelines for British Columbia. I think there are three pipelines, or four that Alberta is talking to Ottawa about right now. Well, and one of the pipelines is the return to the same route as the Northern Gateway pipeline that had its knees cut out from them the last time they tried to put a pipeline across northern British Columbia. Even though everybody talks about the First Nations somehow being against these proposals, band by band, First Nation by First Nation, they've got on board. They see economic benefit. So I think that's a bit of a misnomer. The other thing that's always thrown out about the pipelines, and you take them to the West Coast, and it's the piper ban. Right now, we have a pipeline ban. We also have a tanker ban along the coast. It's been there for many years now. It all came out of the Exxon Valdez. The Exxon Valdez was a single-hulled tanker coming out of Alaska. It hit ground, huge leaks in Alaska, and now that's the big fear. That was 37 years ago. How many giant leaks have there been since then? I can't think of one. And we have regular shipments of oil and gas going down the coast of British Columbia from Alaska, coming down Juan de Fuca Strait every single day. And we have a lot of mythology around the dangers of it, and they've done a lot of work to make it much safer. All the ships that carry fuel now are double hulled, and we just haven't had these accidents. I think that that's a red herring. And so that needs to be part of the discussion. I certainly hope that Prime Minister Carney is going to remove that ban on the tankers, and we move forward with at least one of these pipeline proposals from Alberta. It's good for the economy. It's good for Canada. And Johnny, I'll be beside myself if we don't go forward with that.
Robin, that's fantastic. I support what you said. Canadians want to generate revenue from the extraordinary resources that we have in this country. And why? Not to destroy the environment, not to create difficult relations with First Nations, to generate revenue, to build hospitals, to fix our streets and highways, to improve education, to improve our quality of life. Okay? That's why we want to do it. And 9 out of 10 countries in the world can't do it because they can't generate revenue. Absolutely support what you're saying. And therefore, what a timely time to have David Schneider join us as a senior investment advisor from Aligned Capital Partners and give us some context of what we're saying within the global economy. Why don't we zoom him in?
And now, once again, joining us in the Rumble Room, one of our favorite guys when it comes to money and the economy and how to invest, and also what's going on in the wide world of business. David Schneider, great to have you back on the show.
Good to be back, gentlemen, and great shows these past couple of weeks. Well done.
Well, thank you. We're going to have another one with you.
Okay.
So right off the top, I hear talk of this being a technical recession in Canada. And a technical recession, what does that mean? And are we in a recession? And are things bad? Or where are things at? All we hear about is the threat of tariffs. Then you hear about a recession and you think, oh, the world is caving in. Is it as serious as that sounds?
I don't think it's as serious. National Bank came out with a comment this morning in a chart. Yeah, it might be technical, but some of the GDP numbers per capita are actually going up. That's because of actually population decline. We're not having the immigration. So things aren't as bad, but as soon as that number goes a little bit negative, you get 2 quarters, everybody gets excited. It's not that bad, and we're really being helped by the resource boom right now, especially energy prices. So I don't think it's as bad as what some of the media are saying, actually.
Okay, that's good.
You know, being in the media industry as we are, by the way, hi, David. Welcome to the Rumble Room.
Hey, John.
So being in the media industry as we are, we get potentially a little more sensitive understanding of misinformation, disinformation, because we can doll it out as much as we want. And so we certainly know how it works. So, what's amazing to me is that our largest trading partner since World War II, or maybe before, took a baseball bat to our knees, okay? The last couple of years, 18 months. And we're barely statistically in a recession. Like, give me a break. I think we've done pretty good hypothetically, if that kind of impact was on any other country, and it has been, we'd be like in a depression by easily calculated depression. So I'm a little bit hesitant to jump on this recession bandwagon. Thank you for confirming that.
Well, I don't know if it was a big baseball bat.
It was a big baseball bat. He wanted to take over our country. Come on.
No, just don't take, things literally, not seriously with Trump. That's what you have to do with Trump. And I think people are getting used to it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's. I just had to get that off my chest.
You just had to talk about baseball bats, right, Johnny?
I wanted to talk about beating and bashing and baseball bats.
All right.
Okay. How can we not talk about this new BC Conservative leader? And we'll get back to the economy. We will, because we got you here for a while. Okay. They're talking a lot about building up the BC economy, but have just spent the last couple of months bashing each other with baseball bats. See, there's a theme here. Do you sense British Columbians are ready for a change? Is it time?
Yeah, talking to people from all sides, John, people are desperately needing a change. Obviously, the new leader has some work cut out. Biggest role is to get this caucus together. It's a tough one. It's 51-49. You had some really talented people. I really admire all 5 of them that actually put their names forward. I really admire the interim leader. A lot of people wanted him to stay, but Finlay has an incredible background, especially on the economic side. She's one of the top people on that file. She's got some work to do, especially with one of the candidates that she picked on in one of the debates, which I think, as your guest the other day said, it was inappropriate, talking about Millibar's wife. And I think they're working out. I really like Millibar's attitude on Saturday night. He took the high road, very gracious, which was really good to see. But she's got some work to do to put this party together, because we can't have it fractured. You know what happens when it's fractured. But she's got incredible background in terms of knowing how to deal with Ottawa. And I think it's importantly, you look at Mr. Black's skill set in terms of the economy side. Peter, the other day in the legislature, dealing with the loans in Richmond right now, where banks are saying no to loans and there's backstopping going on. I listened to that 7 minutes. He was brilliant, and the finance minister did not know how to answer. So these are quality people. And then I know Caroline Elliott has a real role, and hope she sticks around, because she has a genuine personality and also resonates, especially with all kinds of part of the population of BC. So she's got a lot of work. I'm glad it's over. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with not getting all these texts, emails, and phone calls all day.
You'll be lonely.
You'll be lonely. We'll talk
I can never stop.
Oh, we'll still call you once in a while, David. So, on the other side of the fence, you've got David Eby, and he's in serious trouble if you believe the polls. The public opinion polls are not favorable for him right now. However, he's looking for a window of an opportunity to turn this all around. And, the pipeline proposal has been at least agreed in principle between the feds and Alberta. And now Alberta, we hear, has 3 suggested pipeline routes through northern BC. One of them basically covering where the Northern Gateway pipeline was supposed to go. And that got trounced aside. So in terms of pipeline politics, which has not been one of David Eby's strong suits, he's going to allow a gas pipeline because the Germans want our LNG, so that's good. He can ring a bell for that. Do you see him relenting, because he still wants to win this election, and the population of the province clearly wants to see economic development?
Oh yeah, and that's the only way for us to pay for the hospitals, the schools, the highways, and so forth. We need to have economic development. We have opportunities. We call it the Suez Canal. It's the northern part near Prince Rupert. It's an incredible opportunity for us to expand our export base there. We can again add capacity to the Trans Mountain line, which was done 10 years ago by Ian Anderson and his team, and it's a great opportunity. But as I think EB is dealing with the same thing that Mr. Carney's dealing with, they have this incredibly side of their caucus that's so radical still. And, even in this past week or two in BC, big fight going on with one senior cabinet minister wanting to expand natural gas production in the province. And you got 3 senior female ministers that are saying no way, and EB's in between. So it is a fight. He's got his base. Everybody says you can't do pipelines. You have to have tanker bans. The safety issues that have been developed in North America are second to none with respect to pipelines. You know who built more pipelines than anybody? Obama. He seemed to get away with it quite well. So we have incredible pipeline capacity. Unfortunately, right now with the question marks, you're not going to get any private capital. It's going to be coming out of, guess where? Ottawa. That doesn't make sense. So you're going to see the Bridger connection going down to the States, but we need to get something out to the coast. Then we get world prices because we're still getting a discount when it goes to the U.S.
Right.
So hopefully something happens. I remind people what Doomberg, one of the top specialists, said almost over a year ago, that a deal has been done. This is April of 25 between Carney, Smith, and Trump. There will be a pipeline built. One thing they need is some sort of financial or national big issue, which is, guess what? Alberta right now. And I think if some people got the numbers, if Alberta didn't exist, this country is going to have a really hard time. And I think Carney in his own way is spearheading a lot of these changes. One thing I was pointed out this morning before this interview, I phoned a couple of specialists and said the amount of media time right now with the ones that get paid by Ottawa, you know them, CBC, CTV, the number of articles about climate change has dropped off the cliff.
Yeah.
Guess who's doing that? The Prime Minister's office. No more articles. So it's really an interesting game right now. We need these pipelines. We have the best pipeline companies in the world: TransCanada, TC Energy, Enbridge, Gibbs, like unbelievable. We have the technology. So I think it's going to happen. But right now, both Carney and EB short term are dealing with radical parts of their cabinet, which are really tough for those gentlemen.
So David, despite that reality, the David Eby economic development plan is to hire more government workers.
Yeah.
I am not optimistic that he will have some sudden change, unless, to Robin's point, there is such enormous pressure, or even some of his own folks start to internally deal with him. Nonetheless, we've got to wait and see. Now, I'm going to move us to an international framework here, international being U.S., because we have an expert on our show today.
It is another country, to be fair, John.
Hey, that's right. So it is international. Yeah, I know. It's hard to feel that way. Okay, there's some hope that come October, November, there'll be a democratically controlled Congress, etc., and that will be beneficial to our ACUSMA free trade agreement discussions. However, if one looks at the facts, in fact, there were some Democratic governments in the U.S. that didn't help our softwood lumber issue whatsoever. In fact, made it quite difficult. What is your reading on the political changes and how that may impact our trade negotiations with the U.S.?
Yeah, I think you have to realize it doesn't matter who's in power. They take care of themselves, Democrats, Republicans. You got to remember the Democrats are very aligned with the Ivy League schools, and the Ivy League schools endowment funds run a lot of the forest product operations in the United States. That's who the battle is on forest products. It's the Ivy League endowment funds. So I think things are going to slow down. Look at the speech that Mr. Carney said on Thursday in New York. He wants to work together. We just got to figure out how to properly negotiate, not blame everything on the Americans, but actually go to solutions with the United States. Say, here, you've got problems. This is where we can help you. I think cooler heads are prevailing, but just like I said, the biggest 24 hours happened last week, if you didn't catch it. It was Carney's speech. It was Blair's interview, and then you had Jamie Dimon all sounding like Trump within 24 hours. Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan. It was amazing. So things are changing out there, but I'm very, very hopeful. They need so many of our energy. I know they export 10 million barrels a day, but they import 8 million barrels a day. And guess where most of that comes from? It comes from Canada, especially certain types of oils that they need. So I think cooler heads prevail. These countries always get along. There's a lot of things going on. But I think Mr. Carney, with that speech in New York, the media didn't know how to deal with it, because all of a sudden he said things and the CBC were just going, well, how do we deal with this story? But our countries get along. We're going to get along. And I'm very, very hopeful. And I think behind the scenes, there's some good people that are being introduced into this negotiation side. And I always also remind how powerful the U.S. governors are that do so much business with Canada. They're very powerful, and a lot of them are Republicans on the northern side of their country, and they have a lot to say. So I'm very, very hopeful. Not just wishful thinking, but very, very hopeful for sure.
I love John going international. I'm going to go even further.
Far beyond.
We have been really cozying up to the European Union and to our European partners in trade, much more than we ever really focused on before. And I just saw an article about the whole issue of aluminum and how it's, they put all these new, 50% tariff on it out of the United States for tin cans and things like that. And the Germans are readily buying it up. Suddenly we went from 0 to 40% of our aluminum exports are going to Europe. And there's going to be an increase on that. We now hear that the Germans really want to sell us submarines, and in return for that are prepared to not only set up factories in Canada that can help maintain the submarines and provide a lot of work, but they're even willing to put some money into a carbon factory in Alberta that's going to help with the oil industry so that they can be carbon neutral, or at least move in that direction. And then on top of that, we have the jet fighters. And now I hear Carney's talking about, we'll take 30 from the United States, but another 50 we'll take from Sweden. And in return for that, they're going to start an air industry again in Canada. They say it could be 9,000 jobs. So do you think rapidly we could see a change in the whole Canadian economy and how we deal with other world markets?
I think we always had to expand our markets everywhere, but our founder of the Macdonald-Laurier Institute, that I'm proud to be part of, reminds everybody that 80% of trade is proximity. They're just next door. And it's very difficult. We opened a free trade agreement with Europe 11 years ago. It's the same percentage as it was 11 years ago. It's very difficult. Yes, there are some one-off things. There's aluminum and things like that. But I was reminded today about getting ready for the meeting about, that the Pentagon walked away from what was it called? The Canada-U.S. Defense Board. It's not a major board, but I go, so what happened there? He says, well, it's just one of those reminders that the U.S. goes to Canada saying, we have veto power over any surveillance technology apparatus Canada decides to buy. I go, that purchase from Saab is not from the United States. The United States has an opportunity to veto that deal because of our relationship with NORAD. I was talking to a very senior person. So if the United States says you're not in NORAD anymore, the alarm buttons went off. The way they did it was going off that small board initially just to show what they're capable of doing. So there's a lot of difficult stuff because of that NORAD relationship, but it's nice to see us, working with Europe. Unfortunately, Europe has the same problem with Canada. They don't have enough energy. Their economies are going downhill. They've got a lot of issues. The powerhouse is the United States, and that's where I think in the long term it's going to be figured out no matter what government's in, and I'm really hopeful for it. So, but it's nice to see that deal with Germany. We were told that we couldn't give them nat gas, and look what happened. The LNG is going to happen, and it's actually going to a utility, sending it to Japan. It makes a lot of sense of that facility in northwestern BC. So, that was a very powerful story.
Let's continue to talk powerhouse economies, because there seems to be another one on the national stage, and that's China. And I just
Yeah,
don't know what's going on there. I mean,
no one does.
this is a communist regime. We seem to sometimes forget that. And they put out misinformation at a better rate and more effectively than Trump can do in a day times 20. So what's really happening? Is their economy as strong as we think it is? Should we be ponying up to them as much as Carney seems to be indicating? Give us the real goods on China, David.
Well, that's why I have Louis Vincent Gav a special presentation a couple weeks at my boardroom. He's one of the renowned people on China. I'll know a little bit more 2-3 weeks from now, but he always says we underestimate the power of China. When I'm giving statistics of how many engineers they graduate every year versus the United States, they're growing their AI. You know, it's an AI powerhouse battle right now. The United States is using nat gas, and China's using coal, and they're both developing, power for computing for AI. It's an amazing story going on between the two entities. So they are powerful. They got a way out of their housing market, but now they're in the industrial market. And I think people really don't know, but totally underestimate the power of that country. And we'll see what happens. But I think, as you saw recently, Mr. Trump, he doesn't have the power himself, especially military, to do anything on that side of the globe. So he's trying to calm things down with China, because there's no way they have the military fight to do things all over the globe anymore. So 3 more meetings between the two leaders? We'll see what transpires. Very, very hopeful there.
We have Canada now suddenly putting a lot more money, or at least promising to put a lot more money into the military, going up to the 2%, which they had committed to long ago and have finally fulfilled that. Now talking to being up to 5% of the GDP going towards military, or at least military-related spending. A lot more jobs, a lot more opportunities to develop, even for export. Do you think this is a realistic strategy for Canada moving forward? Really, can we build ourselves that kind of an industry that's going to be sustainable and high paying, and maybe offset some of the losses in jobs in things like the car industry?
Yeah, I think, well, it's needed. You're right about the car industry. You get some stats of how China's going to be able to compete there. Things are changing big time. What's great from the standpoint of the military is 2 things. One, locally, we have our base here in Victoria. The amount of business going on there is unbelievable. And that's great for our local economy. There's a lot of things happening. Plus, the people from the military, there's so many of them, so many I know with background. I think, John, you know some of them as well. The amount of interesting small tech military companies that are coming out because of their backgrounds it's quite leading edge. And they're not just based in BC. They're based in Alberta. They're based in Manitoba. Like, we used to be the sonar company, or capital of Canada. There's so many different sonar companies that are using, and now because of drones and things like that, it's unbelievable the opportunities there. So very, very hopeful. And it was nice seeing Mr. Carney saying, okay, we're spending more money, especially on the north, which is a huge area to oversee. And what's nice is, there's Halifax and there's Victoria Esquimalt. We get so much business, and that docking station and business out there, I think you're seeing a lot of economic benefits to our region, which is, as you know, very needed, and good paying jobs as well.
David, we can't have a conversation with you without talking about
What?
gas prices.
Yeah.
What is happening really with this Iran war? What are the impacts to our economy, short, medium, long term? I'm quite sure every one of your clients asks you that daily.
Oh, God. The oil thing is really difficult. It has not spiked as much as we worried at the beginning. When people thought the strait was going to be closed, everybody thought we are going to have $150 oil. So hanging in there today, it's up $5-6 a barrel. $100 oil. We've had $100 oil 10 years ago. The difference was about 40 cents at the pump. It's different because we have 40 cents more per liter in taxes. So much of the cost we pay is taxes at the pump. But what has been nice is twofold. The coordinated efforts globally in the Middle East, adding pipelines, the United States able to increase production smartly. China smartly over the last 2 years, 3 years has built up tremendous amount of reserves with oil. That really buffered the volatility. If we saw $150 oil, you'd have seen demand destruction. You think you would have had flights canceled at $100 oil. There was a lot of flights canceled as it is with the airlines. But it's been stable, and it's actually been, reassuring that we went through a thing that nobody could believe in, and we only got to 105, 110 a couple of times, and things have been actually relatively quite calm. And then you add that to that, the amount of money now Alberta and Canada is making because these higher commodity prices, that's good for Canada. We're third, fourth largest producer in the world. And we're getting a lot better prices. And we're actually getting a lot better prices because of I think it's next month that the Trans Mountain pipeline is going to be full now. That's been a huge benefit to Canada, is twinning that pipeline. Huge benefit. So, a lot of worries. Like a month and a half ago, we were really scared because inventory levels are going down. And I think that was one of the reasons that Trump tried to calm things down, because he can't have $150 oil during the midterms. There's no way, right? And during the driving season. So I'm very thankful that we didn't get to $150, because that would have also hurt the general stock market big time.
Well, David, I think we're pretty well at the end of this interview. I'd like to leave maybe just with this quick question. Would you give Mr. Carney a letter grade? The country seems so enamored. He's making so many promises, and it sounds sometimes very much like he's a conservative with a lot of the promises he's making. And what I keep hearing from people who are in the business world is they say, the promises are great, I want to see the action before I can make a real assessment. Is that your feeling about him? What kind of a letter grade would you give him?
Well, I didn't want to give it myself, so I went to my network, and it was between a B and an F. Okay, they're all over the map. So I go, whatever. Carney's got a really tough job. He has a very radical cabinet that he's slowly working on. You can see some of the changes already. What's really interesting, at the senior level bureaucratic side, non-elected officials, he's cleaning house. If you're not capable, if you're not good, you're gone. So it's really good to hear that he's really upgrading many of the senior positions. He's in a tough spot because he can't change his cabinet overnight. The one thing I was told about politicians in Canada, especially in Ottawa, they get, people are canned for a couple of reasons: arrogance and corruption. And generally, the corruption in Ottawa is the way they got the majority. End of story. To get a majority that way, to my best contacts, they all agree that's corruption. You don't do it that way. And then you might not agree, but at the same time, we knew as soon as he took over, one thing about Mr. Carney: arrogance. How long did Canada want to see that? Because you see that the media talking about the flight costs, the way he deals with people in the media. That's his nature. It's nice that he's smart, nice he's connected, but that's the one thing that leaders do. I have less of an issue with Mr. Carney because he's a complete upgrade certificate we had before, like a major upgrade certificate. It's back of the class to first class right now compared to Trudeau. I have to say what we have in this province. And I have to pass on this message, and I hope you guys put this in the tape, is the economic damaging government that we've had in BC has been second to none. People do not realize the damage of an ideology in this province. From their BC, I wish if we didn't have DRIPA, the candidates really would have talked about clean BC. The cost of construction, the lack of economic development because of resources, because of a totally woke ideology, clean BC policy, is absolutely asinine. And it has hurt us now. So this is 4 or 5 years. You started the content, you do not build an economy by government jobs. The capital's leaving, people are leaving. I hope to God that the Conservatives can stay together, be as a team, come up with practical solutions, dealing with these problems. Go forward, because this province cannot go any longer with this government. I'm sorry, they're out of whack. It doesn't work. And to see the pain in our communities, I'm sorry, I had to say that, and hope to God Caroline Finley can do it, because she needs a lot of support. It was really nice to see a lot of people get involved with the political process, because it's important. A lot of people in BC go, whatever. Well, guess what happens? They vote the wrong people in. So I can't tell you how glad I was with basically the passion with this election for the new leader. It was really nice to see. It wasn't perfect, but God, we need some changes for our next generations. And I'm really hoping for a change sooner than later. You talked about, this province is ready for a change, John and Robin, for sure.
Okay, the one thing we do know is that the next time we talk to you, David, there'll be a new world yet again, and a new set of issues to talk about. But until then, I think we're going to rumble on.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen.